Hey everyone! For today's board game product review, I'm going to be taking a look at Armpal by Team Mangda. I recently got an email from them that read, "This is Lyth, a designer of a party game from Team Mangda. I really enjoyed your video on YouTube and am impressed by your video How to Play Betrayal at House on the Hill about Betrayal at House on the Hill. We are a company with 10 plus years of experience in party games, as you can see our proudest product below." They then showed this crazy GIF and continued, "As the picture shows, our product Armpal is not only an interactive party board game, but also a mini mechanical arm which can become a new trend of tabletop games. We will launch it on Kickstarter platform soon, so here sincerely invite you to make a video review." I'd never seen anything like this before, and immediately said I'd love to review it. They sent me a kit that included 2 Armpals, and each one has 3 different interchangeable attachments. The first attachment is this clamp, which you can use to play a game where you compete to pick up blocks and stack them in a column. The second attachment is this excavator, which can be used in a game where you compete to see who can scoop up the most items within a set time limit. And the final attachment is this magnetic crane, which can be used to play a game where you compete to see who can pick up the most metallic items from a shared source. All in all, these are a blast to play. You can definitely tell that Team Mangda came up with their game ideas first and then specifically designed Armpal around them, and not the other way around. However, while I was playing, I kept thinking back to something they wrote to me in their initial email, that Armpal is not only an interactive party board game, but also a mini mechanical arm which can become a new trend of tabletop games. Now, board games are way overdue for a new trend. For the past few hundred years, pretty much every game has been based around the completely overused trend of utilizing your hands to manipulate components. And frankly, I'm sick of it. I applaud Team Mangda for trying to create a new trend, and realize that with potential this big, they probably don't want me wasting time in my review talking about their pre-packaged games. So, without further ado, let's take a look and see how the Armpal could work as a more general tabletop trend. Normally, when moving game pieces, you have to go through the trouble of putting out your hand, opening up your fingers, clamping them down, moving your hand somewhere else, and then opening your fingers again. It's a big hassle and could potentially damage your sensitive finger skin cells. On top of that, over time, the oils found on your skin can discolor components. However, take a look at how Armpal could move pieces. The clamp's soft lining prevents any oils from getting on the components, ensuring they'll stay pristine for a longer amount of time. Also, it completely prevents any finger damage, making your game night much safer, which is great for insurance purposes. Usually, when I roll a die, I put it in my hand, shake it around, and then drop it onto the table. However, on a large majority of dice, the pips that make up the numbers are indented into the plastic. As the die bounces around on my palm, I can feel those indentations and strategically make adjustments to ensure I always roll the exact number that I want. Unfortunately, dice rolls are supposed to be randomized, and this flaw in their design gives me an upper hand that I really shouldn't have. But take a look at what happens if I use the Armpal's excavator attachment to roll a die. Since the pips aren't touching any skin, it makes it much harder to influence what number is going to be rolled, which means it's a much fairer option when compared to using your hand. However, I will say that when the pips graze against the wood, they do make distinctive sounds which let me triangulate what the outcome will be. It's not as reliable as my hand, usually only working about 90% of the time, but it still is definitely an improvement. Many games involve secretly picking up cards to put in your hand, but oftentimes, if your hand tilts at all during this process, your opponents will be able to see what your card is. I initially thought the magnetic crane would be able to solve this problem, but unfortunately, most standard cards aren't metallic and don't react to it. However, I luckily discovered a simple workaround. Anytime you want to pick up a card, first place a magnet underneath it, and then move the crane over it. This will now allow you to pick up the card and transfer it to your hand, while the crane keeps it completely level, making it much more difficult for card snoops to ruin the game. All in all, I totally agree that Armpal will be the next revolution in tabletop trends. It turns the simple act of moving components into its own mini dexterity game, doubling the amount of games you're actively playing whenever you're playing a game. Also, in general, using the Armpal takes much longer to do things than if you were to just use your hands, which means all of your game nights will now have to be extended, bringing much more hours of fun into your life.